Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dishing with Stephanie's Dish, the podcast where we talk to cookbook authors, people obsessed with food. And today we are talking to Trent Pheifer, and he is an Instagram influencer, I think we dare to say, and also a recipe cook and a man who is on a mission. Store bought is fine is his handle on Instagram. And Trent, you are cooking all of the dishes from Aina Garten's cookbook and her shows.
I am. It's been quite a journey. I think I've been doing it about 7 years now.
Okay,
Um,
you are my jam. I just want to hear all about how this started.
yeah, so it was one of those things where I didn't know how to cook at all. I was around 30. I was dating someone at the time. I was kind of getting in the kitchen, wasn't doing a lot of great cooking in the kitchen. And it was about this time that I read Julia Child's My Life in France. And at the same time, my roommates and I were binge watching the Barefoot Contessa, not making
Sure.
any of the dishes, just binge watching. It's an aspirational lifestyle, I think. It's great entertainment. So when I started getting into cooking, I was making all of these recipes from online sources, from Aina, and the online source ones kept failing for me.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was the online recipe developers or anything. It's that I didn't have the basic skills in the kitchen. And the one person whose recipes had always kind of worked out for me, even though I didn't have the skills, were Ina's. So I thought maybe I would take a page from Julie and Julia and just cook my way through all of Ina's Garden's recipes, and in the process, hopefully get my cooking education.
I couldn't love this more because that trajectory of finding Julia Child through her memoir, her biographies, and then kind of going into cooking after that was sort of how it happened for me.
Oh, I love that.
I wasn't a great cook and I'm a home cook. And I felt like Julia made things feel so accessible. So I went
Yep.
back and started to watch some of the shows. And then I stumbled along Food Network, 12 years ago, I think around that time, Ina Garten's show, The Barefoot Contessa. And I too was like, I was trying to cook specifically like these beautiful Martha Stewart magazine recipes.
Yep.
Never worked out. I always was disappointed. And Ina's 100% always worked. And what's unique is the thing she and Julia have in common is I think the two of them have tested more recipes in their books than anybody else.
Oh yeah, and I think that's a secret to their success is Ina always watches somebody else make her recipes and then incorporates that feedback into the recipes. I think there are very few recipe developers or chefs that I will host a dinner party, never having made the dish, and know that it's going to be phenomenal for my guests.
Yeah,
And
same.
Ina is that person where I'm like, I've never made this, but it'll be fine.
And you just have a huge level of confidence that, she's tested it. So it's going to be good. And even
Yep.
her simple recipes and how she approaches food too really speaks to me because it's not like simple, but it's also not, it's always elegant, just in its perfection and its simplicity, but it has just enough things and not too many things.
Yep. And I think that she's just distilled it in a way that with simple ingredients, you can make these great things. I think one of the biggest lessons I ever learned was roasting vegetables. She has a lot of roasted vegetables where it's just salt, pepper, maybe a squeeze of lemon juice, but how phenomenal that on itself can be. I grew up with boiled Brussels sprouts
Yes.
and a lot of veggies that didn't have a lot of flavor. And I think that Ina has perfected that, making it as simple as possible. Some of them are complicated, making them as simple as possible, but still making them like showstoppers or
Yeah.
something that like your friends are going to after eating over at your place.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Ohio.
So kind of I'm from the Midwest, obviously Minnesota.
Yep.
So you seem a
Yep.
little Midwest bound. Where do you live now?
I'm in New York City. I've been here about 14 years now.
And what is your day job life? And do you do this all the time?
No, this is not my full-time job. I actually work for the Advertising Council, which is a national nonprofit that does public service communication efforts to move the needle on some of our most pressing issues. A lot of
I'm
people
in
know us.
I'm in advertising, so
Oh,
we
amazing.
play your ads on my radio station all the time.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, so I'm on the fundraising team. We oversee our board of directors and our fundraising for the organization. So that's my day job. So this is just my side like project, just my passion project. I really thought this would be something that I would do for a couple months and then okay, move on to the next thing. But I really found my passion and love for food throughout this project. So um, it's a balancing act, working a full-time job and cooking as much as I do.
How much do
But
you cook?
um, at a minimum 4 recipes a week. That doesn't seem like much, but
Yes, it does.
that well, if you're really thinking about okay, well, there's 7 days in a week. How many like going out to eat? Like how many meals, lunch, dinner? So I try to do four, and then 2 to 3 evenings during the week.
Okay, so what attracted me to your Instagram was an article that I saw that said Ina Garten's biggest fan picks his 10 favorite recipes. Was that intentional, or did they just pick this up from you, or how did this all come together?
Yeah, no, they reached out maybe a couple months ago and they were like, so I'm pitching this story. It's going to be Ina Garten's biggest fan. Spend all day, every day talking about Ina. It is near impossible to pick a top 10. I mean, she has nearly 1,300 recipes between her books and show. But sometimes I just have to be like, you know what? This is my top 10 for the day. It might change tomorrow. There might have a craving that changes something.
Yeah,
Sometimes I forget that I made a recipe and I'm like, oh yeah, that's one of my favorite. It's not in the top 10, but
yeah.
next year could be a different list.
So you had two, I think two of my top 10. You had the coconut cake, which
Yes.
I won a competition on the local television station competing against the host with basically an adaptation of her recipe.
I love that.
And then you also mentioned, I think, the roast chicken, perfect roast chicken, because
Yep.
everybody needs that.
Yep.
And then I think the roasted carrots with the goat cheese might have made your list, or it made my list.
It's been on, I think it's on I've been doing a bunch of top 10 lists and ranking lists. And the carrots with goat cheese, I think, is on my favorite salads list.
Is there a recipe that when you made it, you didn't think you'd love it and then you loved it, like you got surprised by it?
There's one that I always go to, and it is her sausage and grapes. It was probably the first year, maybe early in the second year of the project. And I looked at this recipe and I'm like, roasted grapes, what's that?
Same.
Like that doesn't say and like I don't know, sweet savory, I
Sausage,
love that,
gross.
but like sausage with like cooked grapes, I'm like, I just mushy, I it just didn't appeal to me at all.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? Let me give it a try. And I absolutely loved it. It was that sweet savory pairing. I feel like the roasting of the grapes concentrates their flavor, making it like almost like a wine that goes with the
Yeah.
sausage and the balsamic vinegar that's in there. It's just such a fabulous dish. And I know that it's a great one because every time I mention this as one of those dishes, everyone's like, that doesn't sound great. That doesn't sound. And then they're like, I tried it. It is phenomenal. It's just one of the, I think, hidden treasures in Ina's repertoire of recipes.
I love it. Now, as someone who's a creator, do you have anxiety about like getting the perfect picture, or are you like on the video train? You have a couple of videos, but are you feeling pressure to do more?
Yeah, I live by anxiety. I feel like that's what propels me in everyday living. So there's a lot of anxiety that goes with it. And I think what's happening, well, I know what's happening, is the algorithm, Instagram, Facebook, they're all trying to be TikTok. And so they're pushing everyone toward video content. I enjoy doing some videos, but because this isn't my full-time job, I ended up, so what I did is I was like, you know what? They're pushing us towards video. I'm going to do a whole Beyonce series where I do um, recipes inspired by her songs, and I'll do videos for everything. And I did a whole month of them. And I can't tell you, it was my least favorite month of the entire project. It was just too much work. And I had to remind myself, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
I'm not like, the following is great and the community that's been built is wonderful, but I am doing this because I enjoy it. And as soon as it's not an enjoyable thing for me, I need to stop doing it. So I went back to filming a video every once in a while, doing mostly photos, and finding this balance that I can live with, even though I've seen my numbers like grow or drop, I mean, or kind of stagnate over time. At least I'm happy doing the thing I'm doing.
Yeah. And I do think that's sort of the bane of our existence as creators too. You start out because you love something, then you catch fire and you're just on the content churning wheel.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a job and it's
Yes.
not as fun. And so, like, why are you doing it? None of us are probably getting rich in the content sphere unless you're, you know, maybe Mr. and Mrs. Original YouTuber.
Yes.
You
The
know,
higher echelon.
yeah, I'm always like a day late and a dollar short on the latest format. So I'm never going to win there.
Yep.
So how about I just enjoy my life? And if I can inspire some people along the way, or, you know, maybe drive a little traffic to my website with clicks, great.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Do you do videos often?
I do, but I also find them exhausting.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's I call them the hands videos. And
Yep.
those look simple, but they are hard to do with the
Yes.
stop motion and everything else. Then there's the like, I'm going to tell you all about my interpersonal feelings journeys videos. That kind of nauseates me.
Yeah.
So mine are like the sloppy in-betweens where I realize halfway through that I can't get the jar of something open because I
Yep.
haven't pre-planned and opened it. And I do some too.
That's where I find that I get a little stressed because of the desire for perfection on video. Like if I forget to add something or something's not quite working for me, I can, like, if I'm not filming myself, I can figure that out and I'm not worried about it.
Yep.
And the photo turns out great. But as soon as it happens on film, I'm like, oh God, like, or what happens, I would like to admit, is so I go to stop the recording and realize after 10 minutes that I haven't been recording at all and I've missed every
I have done this a million times.
together.
I have done this a million times where I am in the middle of something and all of a sudden I realize I haven't started the video.
Yep.
And you're halfway through making it, so you're not going to start again.
And that's the thing. I don't have the time. I don't have the thing that I've loved about this project is that it allows me to just keep trying new things. I'm not like, yes, there are certain things that get in my regular rotation that I'm making all the time. But I love trying new things. And I don't want to repeat a recipe for a second time in 2 days or whatever it is, just for a video. At that point, it's becoming a photo, and everyone will just be happy with that.
Someone asked my kid once what her favorite recipes were that her mom makes. And she just said, she had one that was embarrassing. It was like an Asian tuna salad. But then she said, my mom never makes the same thing twice, so I don't know.
Yes. And that's where I am. Like somebody's like, oh, you must make that all the time. It's so good. And I was like, yeah, I made that one time. I'm sure I'll make it a couple years from now when
Yeah.
the craving strikes again.
So have you met Aina?
I have.
And tell me about that experience and how that came about.
So it was a pretty magical experience. Our last day in Paris, we went to a restaurant, a tasting menu restaurant called Verjus. And I walk into this restaurant, and it is a restaurant that's no bigger than a decent sized living room. I walk in and immediately I look in the corner and it's Aina and Jeffrey having dinner. And so blood drains from my face. My friends are like, what's wrong? And I go, oh my God, Ina and Jeffrey are in the corner of this restaurant. So they seat us at our table. We're across the room. Again, not a big room. And my friends are like, do you want to face her? And I was like, absolutely not. I will not be able to concentrate on anything during this dinner if I'm facing her. So we faced away. My friends were in PR. They were like, okay, let's wait for them to pay the bill and then we'll go over and say hi to her. So restaurant starts clearing out a little bit. We see they're paid their bill. We go straight over there and I introduce myself and I'm like, I'm so sorry to interrupt your dinner, but I'm a huge fan and I'm cooking my way through your recipes. And she nods and Jeffrey nods and I go, yeah, my Instagram account store-bought is fine. And she turns to me and she goes, oh, I heard you were in town. And then turns to Jeffrey and goes, oh, we've corresponded online before. I about died in that moment that she, one, knew I was in Paris and that she, two, like remembered my account.
Yes.
So we had like a lovely conversation about how great the dinner was, our trips to France. And at the end, I was like, can I get a photo with you? She's like, yep, we just got a cab. We'll give you the heads up when it's here and we get a photo outside. And she couldn't have been nicer. Her and Jeffrey were so unbelievably sweet. I think so often you worry about meeting the people you idolize because can they really ever live up to who you've built? They're all humans. Can they really live up to your expectations and what you? And she did in absolutely every single way. Got photo with her. She thanked me for what I was doing. It was just such a magical. It was kismet. Like it was meant to be. She loves Paris. I love Paris. We both live in the city or near the city and have never run into each other here. I just think that it was meant to be, and I'm so thankful for that experience.
Oh, well, I'm so thankful that you've spent this little moment with us today. All the listeners of my show know I'm a huge fan of Aina. And so when I saw your Instagram and started following it, I was like, I have to talk to this man.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been absolutely wonderful.
It's great. It'll take me a couple weeks to share it, but when I do, I'll tag you.
Okay.
And thank you
Okay.
just so much for sharing yourself.
Yeah, no problem. If you need anything else, any other blurbs, pictures, anything, feel free to reach out.
Store-bought is fine.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
We'll
Talk to you soon.
Trent. Bye-bye.
Bye.